A cold wind skims across a pale, open plain, so wide it feels like the edge of the world. Today it looks quiet, almost lifeless. But picture this same place long ago, when the land was not silent at all. Not a single mammoth, but thousands, moving like a slow, living tide across the steppe. Shaggy backs, curved tusks, breath rising in white clouds. And then, as the centuries turned, the crowds thinned. Paths grew unfamiliar. Winters softened. The ground became wetter. And without any trumpet announcing it, without any final battle, these giants drifted toward an ending they couldn't recognize. This is the story of the mammoth's last day. Not one dramatic day on a calendar, but the final stretch of time, when the world quietly stopped being theirs. The superstar of the Ice Age, at least in our imagination, is the woolly mammoth. It stood roughly as tall as a large elephant, yet it looked built for a different planet. A thick coat that could hang in long strands, and smaller ears that didn't waste heat in brutal cold. Those tusks weren't just decoration. They could push aside snow, pry up roots, or settle disputes. And they could grow, year after year, into sweeping arcs longer than a person is tall. The mammoths belong to a world that feels almost unreal today. A world of enormous animals moving through cold grasslands. Woolly rhinoceroses, giant bison, powerful predators built to hunt in ice winds. This was not a frozen wasteland. It was a working ecosystem. Harsh? Yes, but rich. And humans were there too. For early people, mammoths weren't museum displays. They were part of daily life, part of the food chain and the story of survival. A single mammoth could mean weeks of food. Its hide could become shelter. Its bones could become tools, or even the framework for structures. Its tusks could be carved, traded, shaped into objects that outlived the hands that made them. For thousands of years, the mammoth wasn't prehistoric. It was simply present. Here's the key. Mammoths were specialists. They thrived in an environment that was dry, cold, and open. Grasslands and tundra steppe that stretched across huge distances. During the Ice Age, sea levels were lower, and regions that are underwater today were once land. That meant more continuous territory, more corridors to travel, more grazing range, more options. The mammoth world was big, and big worlds are forgiving. If one valley had poor grazing one year, you could move. If one region iced over, you could circle around. If predators or competition pressed in, there was space to breathe. But a world like that only works if the climate stays within certain lines, and eventually, it didn't. Around the end of the last ice age, temperatures began to rise. Not instantly, not like a movie disaster. More like a slow tightening. Rivers changed their paths. Sea levels climbed, swallowing land and cutting old roots. And the steppe, the mammoth's favorite landscape, began to shrink. Mammoths weren't built for thick forests. They were built for open spaces and dry grazing. Plants that grew in cold, wind-swept ground. As the landscape changed, their menu changed. And the problem wasn't only less food, it was different food, in different places, across fractured territory. Picture a herd trying to follow a route passed down for generations. Then the river is wider. The ground is softer. The familiar plain is now a marsh. The grasslands are broken into islands of habitat, separated by obstacles. This is what a slow climate shift looks like from the inside. Not a dramatic collapse, but a life that gets harder to repeat every year. When winters become less extreme, new problems creep in. Parasites and insects that once struggled to survive can spread more easily. Warmer seasons can mean more microbes, more disease pressure, and more stress. Meanwhile, the herds themselves begin to thin, and that matters more than people realize. Because large animals live on a delicate schedule. They reproduce slowly, mature slowly, and rely on social groups for protection and learning. When populations drop, everything becomes fragile. One bad winter, one drought-like summer, one disease wave, one season where calves don't make it, and the math starts working against you. It's like losing pieces from a bridge, one at a time, until suddenly the whole structure can't hold. Now enters the second force shaping this ending: us. Humans didn't invent mammoth decline, but as mammoth habitats tightened, human hunting could become more impactful. Over time, people developed better tools and smarter strategies. Hunting also became more organized, groups coordinating, reading landscapes, using terrain as a weapon. A healthy adult mammoth was dangerous. So success often depended on teamwork and timing, driving animals toward unstable ground, deep snow, steep drops, or mud that stole their strength. It's important not to turn this into a simple villain story. The past is complicated, but it's also hard to ignore a pattern seen in many places. As humans spread into new regions, large animals often disappeared soon after. For mammoths already struggling with habitat change, even moderate additional losses could tip the balance. And once the balance tips, recovery is not guaranteed. When a species declines, it rarely vanishes everywhere at once. Instead, it clings to the last safe corners, the final refuges, cold pockets, remote stretches, isolated places where the old world survives a little longer. For mammoths, some of those refuges were islands far to the north. Imagine it, a small population cut off from the mainland. No migration routes, limited grazing, a whole lineage living on a shrinking stage. Over generations, isolation can even reshape bodies, smaller sizes, different pressures, adaptations to scarce resources. But isolation has a hidden cost: genetic narrowing. With fewer individuals, there's less genetic variety, and when variety shrinks, vulnerabilities spread faster. Inherited weaknesses, reduced fertility, susceptibility to disease. In a big, connected population, problems can be diluted. In a tiny population, problems can become destiny. Then all it takes is one more blow, a harsh storm, a food crash, or a sudden climate swing, and an entire population can disappear, quietly, completely. The last day of mammoths wasn't a ceremony. It was an ordinary day that simply had no tomorrow for their kind. And when that last life ended, something vast went with it. An ancient relationship between animal and landscape, erased from the living earth.